Good morning and welcome to Introduction to Python course. Introduction to Programming using Python. Introduction to Programming Introduction to Programming using Python. The knowledge you learn in this course could be applied to other programming languages. Once you learn programming, learn this course, and once you are able to complete this course, the knowledge will be applicable in learning other programming languages. So if you want to run any program on your system, you need to install the software. You need to install the software that will make the computer to understand the programming you are writing or using. So you need to download the software that will make the computer to understand the language you want to write, whether Python, maybe Java or C++. You have to download the software. So to run Python, you will go to python.org. Go to python.org and download the Python interpreter. You download the Python interpreter, you download the interpreter. So once you download it, you install it. There are so many videos on YouTube you can follow to do that. It's very easy, unlike the way you configure some other programming languages. So you go to python.org, or you can go on YouTube to check out how you are going to download it and install it, whether you are using Windows or Linux or the software produced by Apple. I think it should be macOS. So you just install it, click on it, download it, install it, and it will run, and you'll be able to use it. So Python is an interpreted language because the code is run line by line. Interpreted language. The code is run line by line, so you can easily check your output. So another thing why we chose Python is because it's easy to learn. It's very versatile. You can use it to do so many things, right? You can use it to do so many things. Then you can use it to do web design, graphics, gaming, and so many other things. You can also use it to develop phone apps. And so many people are now using Python in this industry, especially for developing AI systems. So that's one of the reasons. Most especially, it's easier to learn. That's one of the reasons of choosing Python. And once you learn the techniques using Python or writing programs using Python, you will be able to understand or grab any other programming language within a short time, probably about 2 weeks, depending on your capability. So you need to download the interpreter. We have different type of programming classification. We have machine language. We have machine language. So different type of languages. You have machine language. You can program using machine language. You have machine language. You have assembly language. And you have what? You have high level language. You can read more on this under the history of computer. First languages were in form of machine language, which is 1 and 0. They are very tedious to learn. and only specialists can work on it. And you need to learn the hardware thoroughly, know the internal component of the hardware. And it's machine dependent. It's machine dependent because if a laptop is developed used from another company, the machine language you are going to run on that laptop might be different from another laptop that is developed for another company from another company. So that's why we say machine language is machine dependent. Okay, so it is 1 and 0. It's very tedious. You have to learn. You know, the model of computer contains CPU. It contains main memory. Memory is usually close to, I think it's closer to CPU. Then you have input and output devices like your keyboard and mouse. Keyboard and mouse are input and output devices. The output devices is the monitor, the screen. You also have speaker and printer. So computer is about processing. It's about processing. You put something, data into your computer, the computer processes it and you get output, right? So you have to learn the internal component if you want to program in machine language, and you make use of 1 and 0. You make use of 1 and 0. So and you program directly, but because of that it's very tedious. I told you that this is under the issue of computer. I want you to know where Python lies, right? We also have assembly language. Assembly language, because 1 and 0s, machine language is made up of 1 and 0s. You program using 1 and 0, which is what the computer understands directly. So to make it easy, they have to write another program. Probably the first assembly language was written in machine language. The first assembly language might have been written in machine language using 1 and 0. So they now create another software, another language, such that you make use of some command. You don't like maybe store, store, add, sub, and some other ones. So these are the type of command you use in machine language. And you also use 1 and 0s. But it's easier to learn the machine language. You also use 1 and 0s. It's easier to learn the machine language. Is that okay? It's easier to learn the machine language. So to make it easy for people, for programmers of those time, this one was introduced. People still make use of machine language because it's very fast, maybe for certain purposes. Assembly language is slower than machine language because you have to use something, a software that will understand this. It is also machine dependent. You also need to learn the internal component of the computer, the CPU, the memory, the input and output devices or drivers. Okay, you need to learn all these things if you're also programming assembly language. So assembly language is machine dependent like machine language, right? But you make use of some command called mnemonic, right? So you have to download the assembler. You know how to download the assembler before you can program in assembly language. They still program in assembly language today, right? Some programs still write in assembly language because assembly language is slower than machine language. But it has its own advantages. We now have high-level language because this assembly language is also tedious to learn. High-level language was introduced. So those are the 3 types of languages. High-level language are English-like. They are English-like languages. Okay? Because you may be wondering that how does the computer understand programming languages? So it takes years or decades of development before we can get to this level. So an example of high-level language is Python. And Python is easy to learn. It's English-like. All high-level languages are English-like. For example, C++, Java are all high-level languages. They are English-like. Python is easy to learn, right? And that's one of the reason we are choosing it. It's an high-level language. It's English-like. It's like you are speaking English in some ways, right? You don't write in 1 and 0 at all. So these high-level languages, there are some other classification of programming languages. Other languages can be classified as compiled language and what? Can check for spelling, and interpreted language. Interpreted language. If you are writing in Java is a compiled language. You have to write all your code, then you compile it. Then after compiling it, you run it to see the output. This compilation will show you that whether you have error or not, right? But in interpreted languages, it will be running automatically. You'll be seeing your output automatically line by line. So Python is an example of interpreted language. So all these things are past history of computers, hardware development, and some other things. Advancement in CPU development over the years has led to computer processing of smaller size. CPU is responsible for doing all the processing on your system, right? Later, operating system was also introduced, but that one is under, all those things are under issue of computer. You can learn that one. So Python is under high-level languages, and you can use Python for so many things. So how do you run Python? Python is an interpreted language, and if you are going to use the software to make the computer to understand the code, the Python code, you have to go to python.org to download the interpreter, the Python interpreter. If you are using Java, you go to the Oracle website. As of today, I think Oracle owns Java, has the copyright. So you go to oracle.org if you want to use Java, but Java is a compiled language. And in fact, Python is very easy to install. Just go to python.org, download python.org, download the interpreter and run it. It's super easy to install. Unlike some, you don't need to perform other configuration. But during your installation, you will see add to parts. Take note of part of the tab or the display you are going to see as you are installing. You will see how to add to parts. I will encourage some beginners to click on it. Okay, so if you click on it, you'll be able to, you may not need to perform some other configuration, right? So that is about that. So once you download the interpreter, you'll be able to run your Python code. You can check on YouTube. Once you download your interpreter, you'll be able to run your Python code. Now, once you have your interpreter, your compiler, using any programming language, you can run your code on a dark interface. Almost all old computers or early computers only have dark interfaces. You only type text to interact with them, and that platform is still kept till today. You have on Windows operating system a dark interface where you can interact with the computer. Okay, Icon was introduced during the year of development of computer. Icons on screen. You don't have icon on screen before you have complete dark interface. So that interface is still kept, and some programmers, or let me say some people that are into hacking, maybe ethical hacking or any type of hackers, also make use of that dark interface, because there are some things you can do. Most of those things you can do on your icons, on your desktop, on your maybe document and some other directory. All these things are called directory. Document, maybe your video file and some other things. All these things are called directory. You can also do them in the dark interface. And the name of dark interface is called command line interface. So once you install the interpreter, for Python you download the interpreter. That's what the computer will use to understand that you are writing Python. That's the interpreter. The interpreter will convert your code to what the computer can understand. Your Python code to what the computer can understand. So once you download that, what is the next thing? The next thing is you'll be able to run your code using text editor, Notepad. If you don't know Notepad, go and do your research. You're able to type in Notepad. Once you type in your Notepad, you save it. And once you save it as you can give it a name. There are ways of naming things in Python, conventional name of naming things. So just you must start with a letter, okay? You must start with a letter. So you can start with let me say J3. This is a valid name. So once you give it a valid name, or you can use a complete English name, right? You can call it Prog. You can call it Prog1. You may not use number, but you cannot start with number. You may even start with underscore. So there are rules in naming some things in Python. You can start with underscore to name your document. After you type in Notepad, okay, you can name your document starting with underscore. You can use underscore as a name anywhere. It can be the last letter, the last character, but it can be a sentence. So you can use underscore anywhere. You cannot start with number, right? Okay. You can start with alphabet, whether small letter or capital letter. Those are the things you can use. You can use underscore. You can use small letter, underscore, like underscore, program, not dash, underscore program. You can use it. This is a valid name. You don't leave spaces. You must never leave spaces. Okay. So you can use all those things to name your file. You cannot start with number, but you can use number. After the first letter, you can put number anywhere in your words that you want to use to name your notepad. So you can use notepad, or you can use other. Notepad is text editor and it's very plain, right? Most text editor are plain. There are a lot of text editors that are not very sophisticated. So you use text editor. This one comes with most systems. Text editor in on Windows, I think it's called Notepad. Probably it's called Notepad on Apple operating system or Linux. I don't know, but it's called Notepad on Windows. You can look for the name. So this is a text editor. So you type your code in a text editor, you save it, look for file save, and save with a valid Python name. Okay. Once you save it, you put .j. You save it as .py. Okay. You must save it as .py. So even though you put .py, the computer will still see it as a notepad file. Notepad file ends with .txt, right? Computer will see it as .txt. So there is once you want to save your file, there is another dialog box at the lower part where you name your file. Okay, so that dialog box, you have to select all files. Select all files. Once you select all files and you save as .py, okay, you will see that the icon will change wherever you save it. Once you install your interpreter, so the icon will change. Now, the reason why we are talking about different type of things apart from programming is because of the command line interface. So when you run your code, how do you run your code? You have to run your code in command line interface. It's very easy. It's very easy to use the command line interface. You can easily learn it on YouTube. Okay, you can go to your documents in command line interface, go to your desktop, go to any directory on your system in command line interface. So you have to save your notepad, save it as .py, right? And select all files. Under the name, you will say all files, select it. Once you select all files, you save it. Save it somewhere, maybe where you remember, maybe your desktop. Then you now go to your command prompt. Once you get to your command prompt, you can go to where you save that file in your command prompt. You can easily learn. It's not difficult. Go to YouTube to learn how to navigate in command prompt. The dark interface, right? It is called command prompt on Windows. It is also called CMD on Windows. So if you type CMD or command prompt, it will bring it as a dark interface on Windows. This is called command line interface on our operating system. So it has its name on Linux. It also has the name on maybe macOS or Apple operating system. Operating system developed by Apple company. So you have to navigate to where you save the file here and you run it. How do you run it? When you get to the directory where you save the file here, just type the name. Like if you give it the name, I told you that you can start with underscore. Once you start with underscore, you'll be able to use number. You give it the name 3.py. If you type it there, it will run. It will run. Or you might need to type Python. Once you get that directory in this place, it's very easy, right? How to navigate to the place. Just type Python 3.py. Okay, there is a space here. So when you are giving the name, you don't leave spaces in between characters. Okay, you don't leave spaces. You can start with underscore, then you can start with number. You don't start with number, and you don't use any other character. All the characters you use are letters. You must start with letters, whether small or capital letters. You must start with letters or capital letters. Then you can start with underscore. You may use underscore any part of the name you want to use. You can use underscore. Okay. It can be at the end of the name, into the name or wherever. You can use underscore, you can use capital letter and small letter. Then you can't start with number, but you can use number. You can't use any other character. If you use something like ampersand or asterisk on your system or dash, you get error. So that's all about that. So what are the things we need to learn? So you know that Notepad is very simple. It's a very plain has a very plain environment, right? Notepad has a very plain environment. So you can be writing your code in Notepad and be checking the output in CMD. If you make error, the error will be shown here. You don't need to compile. If it's Java, you have to compile because Java is a compile language. You write all your code, you compile it first in the command prompt. You are supposed to write a command to compile it. After you compile it, you will now run it in the command prompt. But Python is interpreted language. You run it directly, you will see the output, right? So I can't remember. Maybe you can check YouTube how to run it. Maybe you are going to just get to the directory and type Python. Then the name of the file, maybe the name of the file is it might not be -3.py, it could be anything, to be my p, right? This is a name. Okay, so you type .py, then maybe you type this, or you just type it directly when you get to directory myp.py, right? Either of these two, or you just type Python mypy. I can't remember. You can check YouTube for that. So once you do that, if you have error, it will show you. It will not run. It will show you where the error is. It will try to show you why the error is as much as possible in the command prompt. So writing code in the command prompt and using Notepad. So once you install your interpreter, you can use Notepad plus what? Plus command prompt. There are so many videos on YouTube, by 5-minute video, where you are going to get how to do some of these things. Some are not even up to that. Some are more than that. Okay. So once you do that, you'll be able to run your code, right? So that is that about that. Now, what are the commands? No, you'll be able to run your code once you use Notepad and the command prompt. The first thing is that you install your interpreter. Go to python.org to install your interpreter. And once you do that, use Notepad and command prompt to run your code. You can use that one to do whatever you want to do. You can use it to create computer games, right? You can use it to develop a website, to produce a phone app. But it's still tedious. Because it's still tedious, another software, greater software was created. And that software is called Integrated Development Environment. So, and there are so many. We have PyCharm of Integrated Development Environment. Because using Notepad and CMD is still tedious, you can download different IDE. So you have PyCharm, you have many of them. You have I think Jupyter, you have Spider. There's another one called Tony, probably TONNY. You can check, and so many other ones. You have Eclipse. I think it's WL. Okay, and there are so many of them. So these are IDE you can use. There's also some text editor you can use with instead of Notepad. There are some text editor you can use to replace Notepad. Some are more sophisticated than Notepad, but there are some advanced text editor we call code editors. Notepad is also code editor, but some usually refer to this one as code editor. So this text editor, you may not even install this thing on them. Okay, so we have text editor like Visual Studio Code. The most used, I think, is Visual Studio Code because it's easy to use, right? We have I think Atom. Probably you can use Atom also. You have Sublime Text. So these are text editor. You might install the interpreter and use this text editor or use this IDE. But some of them, they install some IDE comes with comes with the interpreter already. Some IDE comes with the interpreter, so you may not need to install the interpreter. And some of these text editor here, you might not need to install the interpreter. If you install the interpreter, you may be able to use them instead of Notepad because they make your coding easier. You may write your code easier. Okay, through some methods, they make writing your code easier. So you can use text editor or IDE after you install the interpreter. But there are some IDE that you can use without installing the interpreter. Some you have to install it by clicking something inside them. So it depends, or by doing some configuration and be online. So there are different ways to install it. So you have to know, go to YouTube to know how you want to install. The most used one is Visual Code, I think, because it's very easy to install. You can install Python or any other programming language using plugin, using some of this code editor. Even if you install your compiler, you may be able to run on them directly. So you just look at YouTube how you can use any of this. I think the most authenticated IDE should be PyCharm, right? So, but you are very lucky once you install the interpreter, Python interpreter from the python.org. Once you install the Python interpreter from python.org, once you install the interpreter, an IDE comes with it. And the name of the IDE is called IDLE. So you can use Python IDLE. The IDLE is made up of two parts, I think. We have the IDLE shell. And and where you open file to write your code. So you can run your code there. Instead of seeing your output in the command prompt, you'll be seeing your output in the IDLE shell, right? If you like, you can use Notepad or Notepad and a command line interface, which is called command prompt on Windows. Okay, or CMD, it's also called CMD on Windows. But once you install the Python also, an IDE comes with it, you can use that IDE. That IDE is called IDLE, and that IDLE you can is made up of two parts, where you can run your code by opening a new file. You run your code there, right? You save it as a valid Python identifier name. Then you'll be seeing your output in the Python shell, and you can even run your code in the Python shell. Immediately you'll be seeing your results. The Python shell could be used as a calculator or to quickly check your results. But I think practically you should be using the file you open in the Python IDLE called Python IDE called the IDLE. So that is about that. So to make Python work, the main thing you have to install, number one thing, is the Python interpreter. Even though you want to use the tedious way, is download the interpreter, use command line interface, for example, the CMD on Windows or the command prompt on Windows. It's called command line interface, right? You can use that with Notepad to run your code once you install the interpreter, or you can use IDE. IDE makes it easy for you, or you use advanced text editor like VS Code. They make it easy for you. Okay, you might not install the interpreter before you can use some of this, because the interpreter will be installed through one way or the other, or you may use the interpreter and use some of them. But to be able to run Python at all, the gist is that you have to install the Python interpreter from python.org. Although there may be some other websites where you can find interpreter, but officially it is found in python.org. So I hope that is clear. If you have questions, you can ask in the comment section. So this is the end of the video for this section. We start running Python in the next video. So if you have questions, please ask. Thank you.